Okay, so going back to it, I factored out 2x first, and then I took that, what was left, x squared plus 5x plus 6, and I factored that into x plus 2 and x plus 3. So factored form is 2x times x plus 2 times x plus 3.
To pick up in the office.
Okay.
Wogner, Savannah Burns, Jacob
Relative maximum is the greatest y value of all the points in a particular region. Minimum is the same thing, so it's basically where they dip.
You all have items to pick up in the office.
If you have a graph like this, the relative maximum is up here, the relative minimum is down here, and basically it's the y value of whatever that is. So in this case, if the y value of this is like 5, this is -4, the relative maximum would be 5, relative minimum would be -4. Find the zeros. The zeros are basically where it crosses the x-axis. On this previous one, let's say that this has an x value, x equals 0. This has an x value of 3 or something like that. 3, this is where x equals -4. So these would be the zeros, where it crosses the x-axis, the x value of them. Find the zeros of this. What you do is when you factor it, you set each of these factors equal to 0 and solve. So it would cross at x equals 2, it would cross at -1, and it would cross at -3. Those are the zeros, or x-intercepts. That's another way to say it. If a is a 0, then the factor is x minus a. So if the factor, what is the factor if 0 is -9? Well, it's basically x minus a, which is -9, which turns into x plus 9. Write a polynomial function in standard form with zeros at -2, 3, and 3. So first of all, we know it's going to be a y equals function. The first factor would be x minus our first number, -2, which is the same thing as x plus 2. Our second factor would be x minus our next number, which is 3. And our third factor would be x minus our third number, 3. Okay, so in standard form, well, we don't want it in this form. We want the factored out, or excuse me, foiled out version. So I'm going to FOIL this out. When I do, I get x squared minus x minus 6. Then when I FOIL those out, then I multiply it by that last factor. I do x squared times x cubed. Then take the -6 times x, -6 times -3, -18. Put our like terms together. And there we go. Polynomial in standard function in standard form with zeros at that. Okay, so these are factors. Y equals x minus -4. Y equals x minus -2. X minus 0. Simplify those. Y equals x plus 4. X plus 2. X. FOIL it out, these two. X squared plus 6x plus 8. Multiply all that by x. X distributes to each of those. So x cubed And that's it. Multiple zeros when you have a zero repeated, or a factor repeated. Multiplicity is the number of times a zero is repeated. So what that means is that right here we have x minus 2 is one of the factors, then x plus 1 is one of the factors, and then x plus 1 squared is the same thing as x plus 1 times x plus 1. See how these factors show up 3 times? So a 0, when we set that equal to 0, you solve for x equals -1. It's going to cross there. But the multiplicity is 1, 2, 3. So this has a multiplicity of 3. Right here. Okay, so what we're going to do is factor this. We're going to factor out x squared. Then we're going to factor that further. Now, x squared is the same thing as x times x. Now we have totally factored it out. The only factor that repeats is x. If you set it equal to 0, well, that's what you get, 0. And it shows up twice, so that has a multiplicity of 2. Same thing here. Let's factor out the x. And then factor it further. Okay, what shows up more than once? Right here, set that equal to 0. You get x equals 2. How many times does it show up? Twice. So that is a multiplicity of 2. Summary, you guys can read through that. Homework. There you go, guys. Good luck.